friends. Welcome to the metal shop. Today what we're working on is some longer wheel studs for the rear, and I'm going to put spacers all the way around, and I will show you why. Here in the back, when the body was on the car, I noticed I didn't really like how the offset of these wheels, they sit in the wheel well just a little bit too much. In part, if you want to, the difference between a real Cobra and a fake Cobra, wrong offset wheels, wheels that are too small is a dead giveaway. The real SC Cobras had big, fat meats on them that filled up the wheel well. Matter of fact, that's the design of the body on the 427 cars, where they flared out those fenders from the 289 cars was to accommodate those giant wide wheels. Anyway, I want that look, so they need to be moved out. And quite honestly, I'm kind of tight in here on the kicker shock here, the quad shock. I've got these spaced in and this way as much as possible to get it away from the wheel, but it's a little tight on this side. Interestingly enough, the spacing on this side is a little bit better. But anyway, so I'm going to use a 1/2-inch spacer there, which requires the longer wheel studs, which I bought from Moroso. These are pretty nice. And if you recall, I did put longer wheel studs in the front. That was a whole issue in and of itself. When I bought the car, they said there was no wheel spacer on, but I did find a very skinny, I can't remember exactly what it is. I think it's about 1/4 inch Mr. Gasket spacer in the front, which is still on here, but it's really not quite enough. If you look here at full lock, we're rubbing against the A-arm. And honestly, even if you, even here like this, we're pretty close here to the upper, ball joint area. Anyway, so I'm just going to talk just a little bit about spacers, but I'm going to pull the wheels off because they get a bad rap. People are like, oh, wheel spacers, they're not safe, they're junk, and it's really just not true. And I will show you and explain to you how to properly use a wheel spacer. Let me pull this wheel off and get that going on. So right here you can see I have one of the longer studs mounted. Now I cut the little nub off the end of it, which I planned to do anyway, but I actually had to do that so that I could just barely finagle it through there without having to tear apart the whole backing plate and the drum and everything again. Oh, that was sketchy, but I got it in. That means I'll be able to get all 5 in. So anyway, wheel spacers, how do they get a bad rap? This is how they get a bad rap right here. When you try and use it with the stock size stud. Now this looks okay, right? Wheel spacer stud, put the wheel on, all right? And you're gonna get, if you get any engagement at all, you're gonna get, couple 3 turns. And that right there, that's why they break. It's not because of the wheel stud, it's not because of the wheel spacer, it's because you don't have enough threads holding your wheel on. So wheel spacers used properly with a long wheel stud, now when I put the wheel on, this thing is going to get, you need a minimum, and I've heard this, I've read this, I don't know if it's true or not, take it for what it's worth, you need 7 complete rotations to get a good grip with your nut onto the stud. And this way we're going to get plenty. We're going to get plenty of grip on there with these longer studs. This is really no different than like a washer. When you're bolting something together using a washer or two. It's really, imagine if this piece was welded to the inside of the wheel here. If you had more offset here, the wheel was thicker. Really, what's the difference? The fact that it's a separate piece, this is basic physics here, folks. It makes no difference at all. It's all about engagement with your lug to the proper wheel stud. Now, what they may be talking about, this set of Morosos I bought here, didn't say on them, do not use with spacers. I bought the wrong size, and those said, do not use with spacers. These do not. I don't know if they're older, newer, whatever. So I'm gonna have to pop these out, the studs out, do it one at a time, and finagle the longer studs in. Again, this is a 3/8 spacer. I'm running a 1/2 inch here in the back, which is quite a bit, but I will have tons of engagement, and this is going to work fine. These, it actually pulled a little bit of material through with it. I used the impact here to draw it through. I'll have to remember to grease up the other ones. I may need to go through with a drill and just ease those holes just the tiniest little bit. I measured the studs with a caliper, and these measure the same as the stock studs. Here's one I stripped out. You know, I measured the knurls with a caliper, and it's the same, but these maybe being new, they're just a little sharper, they're a little whatever. So anyway, I got quite a bit of work ahead of me. But anyway, there's a couple of little tips and tricks on how to use the wheel spacer. Now, also, I don't know if it matters or not. Again, I'm only building one car here. I like to use nice billet aluminum wheel spacers. I buy mine from Bear, and you can pick them up in various places. They seem to be price fixed. These are just, they're some of the nicest spacers made, and they're just not the cheap steel kind that are all, you know, full of voids and everything else. These are good quality wheel spacers. So anyway, quite a bit of work ahead of me. Let's get that going. Cool. Right. So today in the metal shop, you can see we got the car back on the ground. I got longer wheel studs installed in front and back, which was a giant pain. A lot harder than it needed to be. But anyway, I forget how teensy this little car is when it's on the ground. I apologize in advance for the wind noise. It is super windy today. Cold here in the metal shop. So what I'd like to do is I'm going to get some help pushing this thing, because we're still not running, of course. And we're going to push it in the other garage where, again, lots of wind noise. We have the body in the air waiting to drop down. I have all the openings cut. Now, a lot of them came cut. The mouth opening, if you will, those vents, oil cooler vent, those were all cut. This side was already cut, so I just kind of had to clean up these edges quite a bit. The cuts were not super precise, but that's okay. The edges all have to be cleaned up anyway. The nice thing about this system, sorry I didn't give you a time lapse of me cranking that crank there in the background to crank this up off the sawhorses, but kind of a one-man show. Anyway, so we're gonna roll the body in under here, and the nice thing about this system is that you can do it. This body's it's not terribly heavy. It's really nice thick fiberglass. You know, 4 guys could easily do it, but this is much nicer because I can go down so incrementally slow and, you know, by myself, dropping the body. And this section in through here, as I recall, has to be pulled out quite a bit before it will drop on. You'll see I've switched to grabbing the body here through the side vents because, as I remember, I had a piece of wood built here to pick up from the back of the hood. But what I couldn't do, I couldn't get the wood out without having to remove the carburetor, which was on previously, that was bolted down. And now, you know, I have the turkey pan and I have the Holly Sniper. I don't want to have to unbolt that to get this out, so we've switched to this. So let's get some wheeling going on. Cool. All right, so we got it under there. It's not perfectly aligned, but like I said, when you're inching that thing down, you can still move the body, and it's impossible pushing it, back and forth to get it to line up perfectly. So I'm going to start very gently cranking down and pausing to move the body so that it slips over. Cool. All right. Well, she's down, and it was not without some doing. I had my son run the crank while I sat here and reefed on the body. It really has to be stretched right in the cowl area to get over that. I mean, it took quite a bit of force, and there was some creaking and some popping, and it was pretty scary, where I felt like I was going to rip, the body in half there, but we got it on. A couple of issues, not to be unexpected. I threw the windshield in because I really wanted to see, and I've seen some other Street Beasts. In my opinion, the windshield sits way too, straight up and down. It just looks bad, and I was like, I'm going to rake mine back as far as I can. Well, the dimensions this Street Beast gives you is 26 inches from the center of this screw to your door opening, and I don't quite have that. So what I found is the windshield right there, the post is hitting where I put in the pedal assembly. No matter, I'll notch that out so I can lay it back. We're about 1/4, 3/8 of an inch off, laid back where I wanted it to be. I thought this hole, I didn't do this, came like this. Thought this hole for the gas tank was properly drilled, and it's close, but I slid the body over to match up the holes, and the tires were way off, so I slid it, got it centered correctly so that the tires were just right, and yeah, this is what we get. So that, no big deal, that's going to have to be eased a little bit, and I'll do some kind of a boot or something there anyway. And I was really scared, I don't know if I'll be able to do this or not, that the hood was not going to close over that radiator tank. I was like, ooh, it looks like it sticks way up. But I looked here through my little window, and if you look, you can see right there, doesn't touch. It's really not even that close. So, good deal. Yeah, it's not perfect. Oh yeah, the other thing, and I knew this going in, and I was kind of thinking about this. Every Street Piece I've looked at has this. Look at that gap in the back, that wheel gap. And a lot of factory fives I see are like this. I don't know what the deal is, but the front, look at that. That's nice. Now the wheels are kind of poking out a hair too much, but that's, you saw yesterday when I put the spacers in there, that's where they have to be so that it doesn't hit the upper A-arm. So that's the way it's going to be. I know that Pete's Garage, he flared out his fenders a little bit more. I really like the way that looks. The back here, I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to have to cut off a coil, cut off at least one full coil to get this to drop down, to make it look correct, because that, to me, some people don't mind that, and it's kind of, if this was in the 80s, 70s or 80s, you'd want your, that's what the rake that you want. You want your back end to stick up like that, but that, I don't care for that at all. So I'm going to have to cut those springs down, at least one coil, or get some different springs or something, because that has got to be dropped down. The other thing I was a little disappointed in is I followed the instructions to the letter about where to mount the dash, and there's a big gap between the dash and the body. And I would have, had I known this, and really, I could still do it, but it would be so labor intensive. I'd like to raise the dash up that it feels like it's probably about an inch. I'd love to raise the dash up that inch so that it, touches the body there. This is exactly how I had a level on the top of it. It's perfectly level with that stanchion in there, that holds everything in place. It's exactly where they wanted it, but that way I could even, if I raise the dash up that 1 inch, I could remove a spacer from the steering wheel support, lift the steering wheel up just, that little bit more. I don't know if I'm going to do that or not. Like I said, that it's completely drilled. I'd have to change the support there, the two-legged support, which I really like. And it's funny because I put a spacer in there, about a 1 inch spacer. So I probably have to lose, if I lifted the dash up that 1 inch, I'd probably have to lose that spacer, but oh well. Overall, pretty good day, here in the metal shop. I'm gonna get this wheeled over into the other garage so we can parked the wife's car back in here. It's Mother's Day, and she's not happy about when I told her their car might need to sit outside for for a little while. So we're gonna get that going on. But and sorry this wasn't, you know, a more comprehensive video where I showed you, you know, me cranking away or me reefing on that. But I mean, really, it's, you know, it is what it is. Pretty happy days here in the metal shop, to quote Nathan Kershaw from Nathan's Garage. Happy days. Anyway, as always, my friends, check out his channel. It's great. Love it. Right now he's putting a bug, an old super bug body over a BMW Z3 chassis. Give his channel the look-y-see. Anyway, as always, my friends, I truly appreciate your support. Please give me a like. Please click that subscribe button. Do just what I just did about Nathan's Garage and recommend my videos to your friends. Give them a share. All right, my friends, and please, please, please stay safe out there, my friends. All right, we will get through this. I know we will. All right, my friends, take care.